everyone, and welcome to GeekGirlCon's A Month of Cyberpunk. Today we are discussing AKIRA Volume 1 as part of our Cyberpunk book club. I am Jannae, pronouns she, her. I am part of the Twitch team here with GeekGirlCon. I am wearing a white fleece with a blue, pink, and orange zigzag pattern. My hair is dark and up, and I have dark glasses. And joining me today is Teryn. I will let you introduce yourself, Teryn.
Hi, my name is Teryn, pronoun she, her. I am also on the Twitch team, and today I'm wearing a bright green and fluorescent yellow hoodie with a black chair and black headphones. I'm excited to be talking about AKIRA.
And lastly, we have Chika, who is new with us, and we're so excited to have her. So, Chika, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Chika, pronouns she, her. I am the new community communications lead with GeekGirlCon, so I'm happy to be joining you guys. I also co-host the Shoujo Sunday podcast, where we review shoujo properties that deserve more attention than what they currently receive. Shoujo just means basically anime targeted towards girls. But yeah, either way, I'm here and my shirt is black and it has I guess goldish looking yellow lettering on it, and it says it's in Japanese, but it's Pretty Guardian Sailor Mew, and it has like a cool Sailor Mew. It's like a play off of Sailor Moon, but yeah, just like on the shirt.
Cute.
Yeah.
Very
and I
cute.
think my chair is pink and purple, so.
Yeah, well, welcome. Excited to be here.
Yes, thank
We're
you.
very excited to have you. Okay, so before we get started, kind of just to warm us up, question, since this is a graphic novel, what other graphic novels have you read before this? In chat, we would also like to know what other graphic novels you have read. I'm trying to go through the Heartstopper series right now. And yeah, I don't read a ton of graphic novels. So Heartstopper and Persepolis, I think was the name of the graphic novel about the girl.
Yeah.
It's
She
Greek, right?
might live in, maybe. It was a very long time ago.
It was the one that was turned into an Oscar-nominated animated film, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It has a red cover and black ink drawings, if that helps.
Yes. I mean, yeah, and like bright blue on the title.
Yeah.
Way back when, may or may not have also. I definitely watched the film. I don't remember if I I don't remember if I read the book. I did. I have a sporadic reading of graphic novels. I really like the medium, especially ones that are sort of contained like this one. AKIRA is volumes 1 to 6, and that's it. It has come to an end, and it's a complete story. I enjoyed Lock and Key, the graphic novels. Very dark. Very much enjoyed them. Way back, I read some for English classes and also on my own. So I Mouse, MAUS, which is a classic one as well. As well as I have one that I still have from college that I read for a college class called Vietnam America, about an artist who's the child of one American parent and one Vietnamese parent. About his sort of mixed culture background. I think they're a really great medium, and I really enjoy it. I have not read a lot of manga, but I have a mental pile of a to read someday manga of animated series I enjoy that I really want to read the source material of. So
Nice. Chico, what about you?
Yeah, cool. I feel like I have more experience reading manga than I do with graphic novels. So, I have a pretty extensive shoujo manga collection I've been collecting since 2005. So, I have lots of things. I guess just before Tokyo Pop was a publisher, it left, it came back. I have a lot of their stuff, a lot of Viz Media stuff. And I also read shonen too, so like don't think that I'm just stuck on one like demo. But yeah, like I read like Sailor Moon and Revolutionary Girl Utena, Basara by Yumi Tamura. I think she has a new one called like Do Not Say Mystery. Oh, I'm out of focus. I'm so sorry, y'all. Um,
There you
I'm back.
go.
You're back.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Um, what else? Requiem of a Rose King. I just got that. I need to actually read the rest of it. It's so good. It's based off of the same history as Game of Thrones. Uh, but yeah, so a lot
Oh.
more manga than I do graphic novels, but I'm happy to be here, so
Yeah, and chat reminded me of Watchmen. I forgot I read that too. And then I also read the series that the Wolf Among Us is based on, that game from Telltale. It's
Oh.
based on like fairy tale creatures in NYC as well.
And
Yeah.
then chat also reminded me of Nimona. I read that one and callback. That was our very first GGC book club.
Bringing it back.
Yeah, I did not watch the series on Netflix, but I'm glad that it was finally made. Okay, so I guess this is the version that I have. I will read the summary. And it says, "Welcome to Neo Tokyo, built on the ashes of a Tokyo annihilated." Yeah, built on the ashes of a Tokyo annihilated by a blast of unknown origin that triggered World War III. The lives of two streetwise teenage friends, Tetsuo and Kaneda, change forever when paranormal abilities begin to awaken in Tetsuo, making him a target for a shadowy agency that will stop at nothing to prevent another catastrophe like the one that leveled Tokyo. At the core of the agency's motivation is a raw, all-consuming fear of an unthinkable, monstrous power known only as Akira.
And I'm holding up for our audience the opening pages of probably the same, right, Jannae? This is the color version for the first few of mine,
Yeah,
but it's like what the explosion looked like. So it's very
yeah.
reminiscent of like a nuclear explosion,
yeah.
right? Like deep in the history and cultural consciousness of Japan.
Okay, so yes, the version that I have is it starts off in color and then goes in to black and white,
Same.
which I thought was very interesting. But is there a full color version? I thought I read that there was, but I'm not sure. Chica, what version do you have? Or did you read?
No,
Was it
oh
all
no.
color? Oh, yeah,
No,
oh,
I
sorry.
read no,
Plus,
it's color.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so how did the absence of color or the presence of it kind of change your perspective of the story? And do you think the color was necessary?
for me, the red motorcycle is very iconic. As someone who I think I watched the movie first and then read the series. I don't know if either of your experiences were the same. I don't actually, Jannae, have you watched the movie?
I have not watched the movie,
Okay.
but I was told by you earlier that the movie just covers volumes 1 and 6, kind of skips over volumes
Yeah,
2 through 5.
Chika, I don't know if you've watched it more recently than I have, but that was my when I went to look up a summary of like trying to put the two together. Is like, oh, that's how it was described, to like condense the plot into one movie. But yeah, I really enjoy the black and white. It doesn't bother me when it's not in color, and occasionally when you see like a colorized version of a thing that was black and white, it's kind of like reading a book and then watching a movie scene. Like if it's different than what you
Mhm.
picture, you don't really like it. So
Mhm.
like I don't know, I enjoy the black and white version myself.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like the black and white just kind of lends itself to the grittiness of the story too. And like it didn't need what what I also liked about the black and white is that then your imagination just kind of fills in the color if you want it, and it kind of gives you that freedom as a reader to have that level of creativity.
Yeah. Yeah. I read it in color. I feel like there's a lot going on. So, and I think maybe it's just because I've read so many different I know like manhwa recently or like webtoons, and that's in color. So it's like, oh, so I'm used to both because like in manga it's usually black and white, and then with manhwa, which is like from Korea, then it's in color and stuff. Sometimes, but at least not sometimes, most of the time. But yeah, so reading this in color, I think I probably would have appreciated it more if it was black and white, because at times it felt like there were just so many things going on. And so it felt reminiscent to the film, and that, of course, the film is in color and stuff. But then that level of grittiness that you were talking about, it's like see it when they're like in the older like town, like older parts of town, like, oh, okay. But I don't know. I think it could have been left more to my imagination. Like, I probably would have preferred it because, like, as long as I know that the motorcycle is red, like, I'm basically fine. So,
Yeah. I bookmarked some pages. I really like the architecture drawing. Like that's a huge part of it, right? This was one of the first like depictions, I think, of like cyberpunk as a genre. So like all the mix between like the high tech sky rises as well as like the like day-to-day street life being like in a really sort of like a bad part of town. It's the whole town is a bad part of town because of like sort of the lawlessness that you see with like the street punks and stuff. But yeah, so I like you can see like some of the drawings of the like skyscraper and stuff. Like I really
yeah.
like just seeing that in black and white. I know there's some moir, I forget MOIRA going on
Yeah.
because of all the tight lines because it is such a well drawn, super detail oriented manga. But I really like the drawings of like the buildings and stuff, and like yeah, I could see how like adding a lot of color would make it distracting because there are a lot of really complicated things and machinery and explosions and stuff happening that like I could see how that could be distracting and confusing when you're trying to decipher what's happening from like two panels of a drawing, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, there are some like it's a pretty violent series, so there are some things that I don't want to see in full detail in full color. So I'm like,
Yep.
I'm glad
Yeah.
that splatter is only one color. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then kind of related to that, like what else did you appreciate about like the art style of the novel, like beyond like the tight lines and stuff that you were just talking about, Teryn? Oops.
I guess I liked that the characters looked pretty normal and they like had certain like discernible features like one guy had like a kind of like giant jaw and the kids made fun of him for that, but like it looked like they're all like I like their fashion as well. Like I was reading like I got the like 35th anniversary version, and one of them was like the author was talking about his fashion. He went to like fashion magazine like references at the time for like what kids would like wear.
Whoa.
That's why like the motorcycle gangs are all like dressed up and like their little outfits. And so I thought it was a good like it's not super fashionable, right? Because it is like so far in book one it's just military guys and like some teenage like street punks. So it's not like you're not seeing like the bright and colorful like fashion sort of thing, but I like the details of like the characters seem like believable and they were drawn and like their expressions and stuff. I enjoyed like all the interactions felt somewhat natural, I guess, even though like it's such a big broad spiraling story.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know, the art sort of, and this might be a reach, it kind of reminded me of Schoolhouse Rock a little bit.
Oh. Okay.
Um, and so it was, but I mean, it's a little more stylized, but still it gave me that sort of feel. So I liked that. Um, and at the same time, I think when you just end up reading a lot of different manga and stuff, like, you tend to see characters being super stylized. And so with this, because everyone looked normal, it was different for me, so it was just nice. It was like, "Oh, okay, this is another way to, like, go about it." Like, it all doesn't have to everyone's art style doesn't need to look the same or have, like, certain, like, points to it. So I liked just how different it was in that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I think I don't know if everyone's the same generation, but like all the anime that I watched when I was little, like from like the 90s and 2000s, were like everything was super angular and spiky, whereas
Yeah.
this is like from the 80s where everything's a little more round and like
Yeah.
you know it's not the anime that people would think of now, right? It came much before that, and so like the art style, it's the artist's own art style, but it's also different from like the peers of now, how people now might draw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there have been a lot of anime where the expressions are like very big and they're very exaggerated. Like the mouths are like very large, but this was a little bit more contained, a lot more realistic. And I really I appreciated the attention to detail, like on especially because it is in black and white. Like you kind of had to um utilize shading and lines a little more differently in order to get that level of detail. So it was very well done. Cool.
Yes, if that was the
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
It
I
was
also
well
just
done.
really liked all of the onomatopoeias. They were just very unusual. Like,
Yeah.
um, not just like clang, bang. It was
Oh, I have to show
like
you. Does
plurf.
yours have the same? Mine has an onomatopoeia like dictionary reference in the back, and it's like 8 pages
Oh,
long. Um,
oh,
these are the Akira sound effect library.
oh my gosh, that's
Has all the
amazing. Mine
sound
does
effects
not
that were
have that.
used. You have thud, which is, and it's got the Japanese like translation of what it would be in like a Japanese. So like thud is do, blam is dawn. Like it's just like all these little like sound effects.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's like multiple pages of it in the back here. And so it's like, yeah. I found that like after I'd like, read through the first one to get caught up for tonight, I found that in the back of it and I was like, this is delightful. Because
My
they
God.
have like an asterisk for like it's in English, but the like obviously what's written on the page is in Japanese, and so it has a little asterisk translation of like what the character's screaming across the the background in kanji. Yeah, or I think it's kanji. I don't know. It could be hiragana. I don't know the written language
Not
or the
sure.
spoken language or any Japanese at all, really, besides 5 words.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just some of those onomatopoeias. They're just like words. It's interesting that they were in English. They're like made up words, but still, it sounds like they have a Japanese translation still.
Mm.
Apparently,
No, yeah,
Yeah.
language. Who knew? But okay. So this was only the first volume. So how did you like the pacing of the story? Do you feel like it was maybe a little slow because this is only the first volume and it's not like there's 5 other volumes to like tell the complete story, or like how did you feel about the pacing?
Chika, you can go first.
Um, I think there was a lot going on. So, like, when it comes to the pacing of it, and I also don't know if it's just because I read it in color, if that's also adding on to it. Probably is adding on to it for me, where it was just like there is so much going on here. I'm trying to read all of like the mini text. What are they talking about in the back and stuff? It felt as if it could have been paced a little bit slower, in my opinion. Um, but I mean, overall, I still like I like the story. I like like how the trajectory is. I just kind of feel like um there was just so much to take in, you know, which I guess maybe because a lot of people got into the movie, that they're just like, well, if you're reading this, then you're already like, no, like this is what we're talking about. So we can give you all of these details in this way. But yeah, I think it could have been paced a little bit slower. Although maybe that would be different for you guys because you read it in black and white.
Maybe, yeah, because for me this is like a reread, and like after I already read or watched the movie. So like knowing what happens at the end when like everything happens, it feels slower reading the beginning and just knowing what's coming and knowing that like getting to the end of book one and being like, oh, we're not even close. To all those big things that happen in the end. I thought it was I guess I would say it's okay. Like again, I know what is coming, but I also feel like it's important to get an idea of who like the main characters are, because I think their dynamic plays into a lot of what happens when things, when I don't know how, I don't want to spoil things. I think we can only stick to book one, but when things start happening to Tetsuo, like it's important to know the dynamic between him and Kaneda, right? Where
Yeah.
like it's interesting to watch sort of like the second in command in their little street group to like know that like that changes how he behaves and how he uses what he has and how he like how the dynamic of like all the different like different sort of punk groups like how they behave with each other and how like he relates to them. Like I think that's important to know before like things start happening. I think it's important to know sort of those dynamics, because that is like an important thing in the story, is that it's not just about like these crazy supernatural things happening. It's also like, well, this is how it affects like actual people that live in the city. So I think that was a good thing to establish, and made it feel a lot more grounded for such a wild story.
Yeah, felt like at times it was like very fast paced, like just a lot of action happening. But then there were other times where I was like, this is a little slow. Like I can tell it's building to something, but like the payoff like isn't quite there. Like we're just like laying the groundwork and establishing those like the setting, the relationships and stuff and all that stuff. Do you think like the pacing too was affected by, I think Teryn, when we were talking earlier, you had mentioned that this was serialized, so it was like like 120 different installments.
Mm.
So
According to Wikipedia, that was not something that I knew beforehand. Just
yeah,
so Chad is aware, I had to look that up because I didn't know if it was serialized, because it's only been presented to me in like the graphic novel like 6-book format. So I was curious if like you had to wait. It's like Charles Dickens, you read it now as like one giant book, but it originally came out as like serial, one chapter at a time, weeklies, right?
Yeah.
Which changes how that's why when you read the whole book, you're like, boy, this is boring. And then you find out that people back in the day had to wait like a month between chapters, and you're like, I hope it was exciting for you.
Yeah.
But like it could be different for this, right? I feel like there's a lot more going on. And that's a good question from Alyssa, with like, I wonder if it does feel like, or she said, I wonder if it feels like a lot because originally the original audience had to wait a week in between to find out what would happen. I'd be curious to know, because I couldn't really tell. I don't know if it was different for you guys. I couldn't tell where the chapter cutoffs would be, really.
Yeah, me neither. There was no like fade to black. There were no like chapter 1, distinctions. Yeah. Do you think there would be? I mean, we serialize TV these days, but do you think there is like any book that you have read that you think would have benefited from a serialized format? Because like when you're watching like Game of Thrones when it first premiered, there was so much hype between episodes and like lots of theories and it just became it became such a cultural phenomenon because of that, like those breaks between weeks. But yeah, I'm just curious to know if there's any book I don't know, movie,
Can it be an
something that you would
anime? Is it
sure.
cheating to use the same thing? Okay. Recently I did watch JoJo's Part 6. And they had to make a decision sometime during production between doing weekly or releasing them in batches. And did the worst of both worlds, which is they'd release it in like 3 batches for one season
Oh no.
with like months in between. So it was like the worst of both worlds where like I know week to week production for something like an anime is really a hard crunch time to do.
Yeah.
But from what I heard, they still crunched to release it in 3 chunks. And you got the worst of both worlds where like you didn't get any hype from the batch that was released. You just consumed it all in one go. And there wasn't like the weekly build up of like what'll happen next week. It's just like, oh, and this is just one whole arc at once. One whole arc at once. Then the finale all is one, like, 10 episodes all as one batch. And it's like you didn't get any like, I
Yeah.
wonder what'll happen in the finale because it was all just one thing that was released. So that is something that I, as a fan, would have liked it to, have been released in a more a weekly manner that would have like kept the hype going, as more crazy things kept happening in that anime. So yeah, that's it compared to like I think that's how Part 5 released, and it really helped the community build around the big moments that they knew were coming, versus releasing it as like one like 10 episode. Here you go, binge it in 2 days, kind of a thing.
Yeah. I think a fiction book that would be cool, or a series that would be cool, like serialized, would probably be The Hunger Games. I think
Yeah.
if it was a weekly serial, I think a lot of people would really enjoy that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point because like battle royales, there have been multiple films. I
Yeah.
don't know if there's been a series. That's a good
A
idea.
battle royale series. I think that somebody's. I don't know. I'll say I don't know if I'm watching it. I think somebody is trying to make an actual TV series of it.
Interesting.
But yeah. Even when it comes to the movie, just watch the first one, y'all. Yeah. The second one is a lie. I just don't know. But um, yeah. I think the Hunger Games building on that, like every week, and like the different districts, and then the people, and then
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. +1 to recommending the first movie. It's a lot different from the other ones, which are just kind of like finishing the plot that the books did. But the first one, I
yeah.
thought the actual film that they made was really interesting.
Mhm.
+1. That's a good idea.
Yeah, that is a good suggestion. I was gonna say, um, Into the Spider or Across the Spider-Verse, or actually both movies, I think would have
Mm,
been really interesting to see kind of broken up into or bite-sized chunks. 'Cause I think that would have really lent it like really would have lent itself to that build. Um, Especially with like the multiverse, and you could like really dig deep into all the different Spider-Men. And I think that like kind of makes sense because it started off as a comic book, and like comic books were serialized essentially too. Um, but yeah, Alyssa says Game of Thrones as well, but I'm assuming the book Game of Thrones and not the TV show, since the TV show was already serialized. Um,
yeah.
but only because each chapter is told from a different character's perspective, which would work well in a weekly release. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah. I think some sort of thriller would be really interesting. Or did you ever watch the movie? It's very old. Vantage Point, where it tells the story from the same story, but from a bunch of different characters' perspectives. And so you're trying to piece together like exactly what happens. I think that would be really interesting too. Every
Oh,
week,
yeah.
different characters' perspective, but of the same story, and then you slowly piece together
Oh, like
who did it.
like a mystery stuff too, like Agatha Christie type.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the classic whodunit. It's like, okay, we're with this person this week, and this other
Yeah.
person. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Kind of got off topic there, But how do you think this story in particular kind of lent itself to the graphic novel medium versus it was a movie as well, so I guess you can compare contrast if you've seen the movie.
Yeah, I really liked it for all the above list reasons I had earlier, which is the super detailed like scenery and drawings is what I really enjoyed. It's just such a cool setting. Is that's why people love Cyberpunk, is it's such a mix of like high tech, futuristic, like body horror, but with all these like the graphic novel for sure has a lot of really intricate drawings about the scenery and the city, and that to me I find the setting of Cyberpunk to be really, it's one of my favorite like fiction settings, so that was a big highlight for me.
Yeah, I really like, I think I like the Akira. I mean, despite from like me, I need to get it in black and white. But I think outside of it, really, I do tend to prefer reading versus watching, because then you get to have so much added detail, not just like the scenery, but more on the characters and then their reactions and stuff, and like you see like the author notes and stuff, and so getting to experience all of that, that's why I personally just like loved going towards that more. Like I will read it and then I'll watch. So
Yeah, I always tend to prefer reading it first. And then, yeah, because I touched on it earlier where it's like you kind of get to fill in a lot of things with your own
mm,
imagination because of the way that a graphic novel is just kind of built with the each cell. Are they still called cells? The boxes? I'm not
the
sure.
panels?
I think
Panels.
so.
Yes. Okay. I couldn't think of the word. But like you kind of have to fill in what else is happening around each panel, right? And yeah. And also, again, I just really liked the onomatopoeias. You don't get that in in an in a film. Although I'm curious what the closed captions or the subtitles would have said when they're saying things like "woof," you know,
There
in the graph.
is, in my version at least, a little asterisk with the translation usually. It's usually like
Oh,
ah or something, but it's yeah. Um yeah, sometimes. But others some not always, so there's sometimes where you can just fill in the blank with whatever sound your brain wants to make for that. Um yeah, uh I think every um like time when I've read the manga verse and watched the anime, I think I've always watched the thing first, and then that's made me want to go and dig through the manga for like more details and interactions that might not have fit into the animation. Um, I mean that's definitely the case for Akira, where it's like 1 2 hour movie versus 6 volumes of the graphic novel. Um, so it's definitely like I think you'll enjoy the movie because like it'll be all the things you've read in a very short, pretty time frame. It will not take you weeks to watch the movie. It'll take you like an hour and a half. Um, versus the other way around, where you're like, "Wow, I really like the movie. I wonder when it gets to this part," and then you find it's like book 6, right? So, um, yeah. But all the ones that I've wanted to, there he goes. Um, but
he's
that's
mad that
where I know
his
he's mad because I put up the wall, and so I had to let him into the wall. And now he's mad because Akira is on his seat. So
yeah.
cat will stay mad. Um, but yeah, all the times that because manga, I mean, a lot like anime, is just a huge industry. There's just so
Yeah.
much out there, and you really have to like take the recommendations you trust of like what to sort of sync, like what to invest into, because it's gonna be like 120 chapters, or something that you want to decide like to choose to read. So for me, it's always been like there's like 2 mangas where I've like watched the anime, and now I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready to dive into the manga, which is just has been spanning for like a decade or whatever, and I'm like, okay, I'm finally I'll put it on the list, like Berserk's on the list, but like that actually is one where I did not watch the anime, but I've heard.
Yeah, don't. I mean, the 90s version is good.
All right.
Is good. Don't watch the 2016 one, no matter what
Okay.
anybody. But
Yeah, after the artist passing, I've been hearing nothing but good things about Berserk, so I'm like, okay, it might be finally be time to read that one. But
yeah.
the other one was Netflix made a 1 season of a show called Dorohedoro. I don't know how to pronounce it, but apparently the super great sprawling manga, but it looks like Netflix will not do any more of the animation. And so as someone who liked the first season, and that's probably going to be the only season, I'm like, I'm going to have to go read the series. But I'm
Yeah.
intrigued for that one because it's like a female writer who only goes by the letter Q. So I'm like, okay, I need to. I will never know more, but I at least need to read the series to get more into this. I'm intrigued from everything I loved about that. So yeah, it's just when I want to like really dig into the art style of the world, like more details, like to take my time with it versus like just getting through the animation or getting through a season of an anime for like the plot points. I really want to like dig into the world is when I would go for like the written version.
Yeah. Do you happen to know if this author wrote other or did any other animes, or is Akira kind of the
As creator or like as an artist? Because from what I
as
know,
an artist?
from what I know of the industry, you kind of work your way up as an apprentice, and then you eventually might get your own series. It's like you start as like an apprentice to like an already existing series, helping the artists like fill in all the panels and stuff, and then you sort of graduate to like doing your own project if you have like an idea, and then eventually you get an apprentice, and then like the cycle like kind of continues. So I'm sure. I don't know if Chika, if you know anything else that he's made, but yeah, I don't know of any other titles.
He has other work, but this is just because I'm not omnipotent. I looked this up. He has other notable work. I'm not sure if it's here. It might be. Yeah, like there's one. It's seinen called Domu, A Child's Dream. Um, I wonder. Oh no, that's a film. Yeah, so like he has other stuff, but I don't really think in another film. Yeah, so other written work, I guess Domu's the other notable thing, and it's licensed here by Dark Horse Comics. So, um, hopefully if it's not out of print, probably not, then could easily get that and check it out. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to see like how or if the art style kind of changed between the works. But we'll look it up. Find it at the library or something. Okay. So what were your thoughts on the development of Kaneda and Tetsuo's relationship arc? Just through the first volume. Let's keep it contained.
For
now.
just the first volume, I really liked that the author gave the powers to like the secondary character, and you get to watch the development of it, like you're following the main character. Like I think Kaneda would be like the main character.
Yeah.
He's on the box. I don't
Yeah.
know. But that like it's like every once in a while you check in with the guy getting crazy powers as like Kaneda just goes about his day to high school. And you like find out about this like secondarily, like after things are kind of already happening. I enjoyed the power dynamic that you feel between them. It's like a super like hyper version of the normal like sort of teenage boy like sort of friendship strains that happen. It's like a super extreme version of that. And I like that they established like Kaneda as like this leader that like all these other kids, like even though they're all the same age, they all kind of like answer to him, right? Because he's like the leader, and that you got to see how that interacted with like this other longtime friend suddenly having a giant like power change, and how that affected them. That was something that I really enjoyed, and it's definitely the what I would think of as the main part of part one or book one.
Yeah. I think I also liked that, we got to just see this shift between them and that they were all part of the same gang. And so there's going to be some level of tension within that. But then once Tetsuo started changing, he it's like he's losing sight of the camaraderie that was part of it and just more seeing like the authority and going against that and stuff. So it was just interesting to see his like overall change and how it was impacting Kaneda. Just like, oh wait, what? I've been trying to fight 26 all this time for you. Like what's going on? So, yeah.
Yeah, like similar to Teryn, that was very interesting that like a lot of like the big thing happens to that the secondary character because I feel like that's very unusual um in telling a story. So because we were so focused on or because Kaneda's the main character and we kind of put ourselves in his shoes and it's yeah, it was easier to kind of like see that tension and like see that build and that development and like the push pull and because it's such a long story too we're able to kind of like dig in a little bit more to that but
Yeah, it reminded
various
me of if anyone here has played Life is Strange 2. I haven't played it myself, but I've like watched playthroughs of it. Most Life is Strange games, like the main character has like a crazy power. In Life is Strange 2, your little brother has the crazy powers. So you make your
Oh.
choices, but like it influences how you're sort of the secondary, tertiary, like protagonist, like deuteragonist, I think is the word, how they interact with the world is by the choices that you make. So this is like not the same, but it's like you also get to like watch Kaneda make sometimes dumb choices. He's a teenager,
yeah
but like just watching that echo out into how it relates to people who are like sometimes like trying to kill him, but sometimes trying to save his life, and he keeps still making like those choices. So like with the underground sort of fighters, like his relationship with them in the beginning is kind of fraught, and then he has to be with them, but he's like kind of like a jerk the whole time because like he kind of has to stand on his own, and he kind of has to stand for like his gang members that look up to him. So I think it like it's an interesting dynamic that they introduce us with because from what I remember later in the story you don't always get you don't get to spend a lot of time with everyone in the way that you do like not you can't touch on like all the characters, like it just goes so many different places, but like in this like contained just the first introductory you can really like magnifying glass on all the relationships that they have. It really gives the time for that.
I think a parallel of that would probably be Full Metal Alchemist.
Mm.
Although, I do hear that Brotherhood is better. I watched the original Full Metal when it was on TV. Um, but yeah, it's the same where it's like there is a lead character, it's the older brother, but then it's the younger brother that goes through this big change. Which is a very, very vague description of it, but yeah, so
Yeah,
wow.
that's what Alyssa chimes in that Brotherhood might be the preferred version. I think that's available now, but yeah, that's another good example that I still need to watch someday.
it's
But
on your list
I think
I know it's on the
Brotherhood,
list.
Brotherhood. I don't know
Brotherhood.
about the original one because it's like that's a product of its time. But Brotherhood, well, I hear a lot of people rave about it. So
Yay. Okay, add it to the list if it's not already on there. Okay. And then going into like the setting, what were your opinions about the setting of Neo Tokyo, and how do you think the setting affected the story, the relationships? And do you think the story could have been told in a different, I'm going to call it quote unquote, Neo city and have the same impact? Like, would the story still be the same? Would the characters go through the same development arc?
I would say no, because like I think Tokyo is really known for being so compact. Right? There's just so many people in just a small area, and Japan is like it's a big island, but it's an island nation, right? Like technically, like it's a big island. So I think that really like lands to like how big of a deal it would be if like what already happened, the nuclear explosion happened in such a place as Tokyo, and how that would like completely decimate and have like a regrowth of culture from that moment. I think that like it matters a lot in terms of like just with how packed in people have to be to live there. And how even in like the cyberpunk sort of wasteland style thing, you still get like a crowded like sense. Everyone's still in like very small rooms most of the time, and even though there's these big grand buildings, but all the rooms are like there's like a congested kind of feel to it, and that everyone's kind of packed in. Even with like the lawless gangs, riding around there's like abandoned like buildings and motorways and everything, but like when everyone's inside, it's very like small, kind of like fending for yourselves kind of a feel to it. So I think that definitely adds to the uniqueness of like all the you can see it in the film for sure, but all the neon lights. I'm sure in the color version you saw like a super colorful city that we kind of only get a taste of with the black and white version. I think that all kind of feeds into sort of the cultural like feel of Tokyo in like a apocalyptic setting.
yeah, I think hmm I don't like I know that it's called Neo Tokyo, and it just has the grittiness of the 80s. And so for me, I'm just mentally like it's been World War III, but it's like what this is supposed to be a brand new life, and then the way that it's set up, it's like it looks like how it used to be, but it's supposed to be new. Like this is supposed to be 2019 and stuff. And so for me, it's just like like I I I think that it's interesting. Um I like it for the most part. Um I don't know. It's hard for me to have like really firm feelings because to call it Neo, and it's like I'm mentally like calling it Neo Tokyo is like this looks like how it was before. So I think that in particular is tripping me up because I'm like that's like it doesn't even look like that now. Like when you go um but yeah, like I think also the fact that it's post-apocalyptic. What else have oh, Basara, I read that. But that's a definitely different, way different from Akira, but it's like post-apocalyptic, but then rather than it being like, oh, we have a city, it's like I mean, it's more of a fantasy manga and people are like more in the past and they're dressed like I wouldn't even know how to it's like very much like BC type dressing, like the way that it is, but they say that that's post-apocalyptic. So, I mean, either way, I'm with the vibes. It's calling it a lot, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The closest I'm trying to think of a better reference and I can't. The closest thing I could think of to an example from the similar time period is like Escape from New York, which looking it up now came out in 1981, which was a year before this came out. But like that was when New York was turned into like a prison state for convicts in like a sort of post-apocalyptic way, and like how that was portrayed in the film would be like if that densely packed like city like urban environment was turned into like a lawless like wasteland. That was the American like version with Kurt Russell. But so this is a very different. There weren't, it wasn't a world with children, which is what Akira is, right?
Yeah.
Which really changes things as well. Of like, it's not just adults who are living in like a crappy situation. Like you watch how it affects the kids. Like especially it's so funny. Like they're going to school and like it's clear that none of them take them seriously because it's like that the Gen Z and Alpha now that are like looking at this world of like like desolation and like they're like, how are we supposed to think we have a future? It's all gone. And like that's kind of like what the kids in this are going through, where they're going to this like vocational school, but they're all like looking outside and they're like, there's nothing there for us. Like,
Yeah.
this doesn't matter. And it's funny because like, with all the powers and shenanigans that happen in the story, it's like they're kind of right. Like, it's hard to like, at least from an adult perspective, be like, no, you have to care about the world that you're in. And it's like, there's just like the wasteland that they're living in, it's clear that like that might not be, the outlook that really connects with all these kids that are growing up in the world that like it was destroyed before they even got there, right?
Mhm.
Think of the children, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, and the children look like adults too. They're
Yeah.
they're doing adult things. They're going to little underground bars. They're
Mhm.
popping pills. I'm just like, like,
And they're dealing
You're a
pills, I think,
child.
too.
yes. I'm
Yeah,
just like,
and
you're a child. Like, I know you have a
yeah.
motorcycle, but calm down. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. And has reading the first volume kind of compelled you to read the remaining books in this series? Now, if you were to go back and if you hadn't read the other 5 books, after reading the first one, would you have been like, yes, I would like to continue reading this. I'm like really interested, etc.
Yeah, I wanna see more of, Tetsuo's change. I
Oh,
wanna see, like, what happens. I wanna see more about, like, the numbers and, why get more on why they are so heavily addicted to these pills. Like, what does it really do to them? Like, I want to know more, so
wait,
I would
and Chika,
definitely read.
remind me, you haven't read 2 through 6. Okay,
Mm,
okay.
But you
no,
have seen the film.
You have seen the movie.
I've seen large chunks. I haven't
Okay.
finished it. It's like, yeah, like
Okay,
large
no
chunks and
spoilers.
then
Yeah.
random people, yeah.
Yeah, the animated movie is very iconic. I'm sure everyone in chat has seen like gifs or reels or clips from it. Especially like the opening city sequences and the motorcycle chase and stuff. It's just
Yeah.
it's very iconic and it's eye candy, but it's also slightly horrifying. So, um, and more than slightly horrifying in the end. So yeah, it's what I, as someone who is rereading it and hasn't read it in many years, the thing I'm looking forward to is yeah, like watching how things change because in the movie it obviously has to happen very fast, whereas like the pacing of the graphic novel means like you're gonna see it like it's not gonna be like one panel he's like this, next panel he's like this. Like even just in book one, like he gradually was like losing a bandage here, losing a bandage here, like the hairstyle change, right? Is like the typical
Yeah.
anime, like I'm changing my powers. The hairstyle goes crazy. So you get to see like the gradual like change of that, and like his facial expressions getting more intense and angry. So yeah, definitely looking forward to remembering, um, as I read like how things escalate.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the slow burn and like that slow change is what I think is what is compelling me to kind of want to read the remainder of the books because I'm gonna liken it to Breaking Bad, which I have not seen, but what I've been told is like the change of Walter White is so gradual that you kind of like don't realize that it's happening, but then you like go back and you're like, oh, like here are all the signs that or all the decisions that kind of like led him to there. But I think that similar slow development of Tetsuo's change would be very interesting to see.
Yeah, especially meeting what are apparently the other numbers and what they look like, right? And then wondering like, well, is that what's going to happen to Tetsuo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, any final thoughts on the book?
Please read it. It's good.
Casting? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just very pretty. Yeah, I like it. I'm a big fan of Cyberpunk, and I think this was definitely something that contributed to it. And hearing and looking up how it affected movies like The Matrix and those series, and pretty much any cyberpunk ever, even in Western culture. Like it's always good to go back and look at the source of sort of where a lot of those like tropes we associate with cyberpunk started, like the body horror and trans, like changing yourself, and like the adaptation of technology and people and grunge and like high tech and like the over corporate military. Like it's just got a taste of everything, and motorcycles, cool looking motorcycles. So yeah, I enjoy it a lot. Yeah, would recommend.
Yeah. I would recommend it too. So definitely get into it. And I mean, that's not just because like I mean, I like in general, I like anime and I like manga. So you don't even have to go into like the demo stuff. I think it's good, so y'all should check it out and get back to us about it too. Like
Yeah.
your perspectives on it and stuff.
Yes. Okay. So I would also recommend 3 out of 3, 100% GGC staffers recommend. So everyone followed our recommendation. Okay, so Chika, Teryn, thanks for joining the discussion. And Chika, again, we're very excited to have you as a first timer. We hope you come back.
Yes.
Yay!
I'll be here for a long time. Yes.
Yay! Okay, soon you will soon become a familiar face on the GGC Twitch channel. Let's see. To continue our month of Cyberpunk, on Thursday, Joe will be playing System Gateway, a board game, and I heard rumors that there might be some giveaways. So
Mayhaps
check that out.
another raffle is
Yeah,
in store.
mayhaps. So yeah, check that out. And then we're taking the week off for Thanksgiving, just to rest up. And then on the 28th, we will be back with a Cyberpunk art tutorial with Miriam as part of our Art with Miriam series that I'm making a thing. Okay, and it looks like we are going to raid Phantom Meeple Joe. So check him out, and he'll be back on this channel on Thursday. But thanks, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.